Hi, this is Let's Talk About Dating with Christine Baumgartner and Barry Selby. We're so
Hi,
happy you're here. Hi, Barry.
hi, Christine. Good to be back again for another fun discussion.
Really fun discussion, I think. I mean, it's about happiness, right? I mean, isn't that a good discussion to be having?
Ultimately, yeah.
Yes, yes. How do we ultimately make ourselves happy? That really is the crux of the matter.
Well, there's a lot more to it than just that, though. We know we'll start
Yes,
unearthing things and going deeper because we can.
yes. But I think that so many people in general and right now, how and ever do they think they could be happy? I mean, it's feeling like there's more things pushing their happiness away than bringing happiness to them. So right now is a really extra trying time. And I think even making this video is more timely and poignant for how to help people get through their daily lives, period. And certainly with all the challenges to stay in their best place. And
Right.
with lots and lots of tips and interesting things about it. So
We'll break this down in a way that works.
I think it's really helpful. So my thought, I was actually born happy. My mom says I came out of the womb happy and organizing. That was my thing.
Nice.
Yeah, she'd walk in my room when I was little and I'd be smiling. And when I was bigger, I'd be sitting up smiling. It's just who I am. And people say, well, gosh, are you happy all the time? No, no. I mean, that's really big, major, expensive drugs, and I don't take those kind. And even though it's my basic personality, I still am very clear it's a choice every day.
Every moment.
Every moment of every day, that's true. How am I going to ensure, I call it my buoy, that my buoy is bumping along on the ocean, and there's a little wave that kind of knocks it over, and then there's bigger waves that knock it over, and the biggest one was my husband dying suddenly, and it was submerged.
Absolutely.
Back up, it was slanted. There was no uprightness about my buoy at all. And yet, there were still times I could say, even in that first year, where with my friends, we still had some times where we laughed and times where I thought, oh, I am going to get through this, even though a lot of the time it felt hopeless, helpless,
Oh,
a whole nightmare. And so I'd love for us to talk about some of the techniques that we suggest to our clients that we've used in our own lives, as well as one of the things I think is really important to talk about is what I find for me is being sad, being upset is the other part of keeping me happy, that I have to go through the feelings. I can't deny the feelings. Oh, I only want to be happy. Well, that's not appropriate. And how do I let them go through? How do I manage
right.
them? How do I deal with them so that my buoy can get back upright again? So I think that's a
Right.
big, meaty part of this topic today too.
It's true. And also, I think we want to make sure we definitely talk about how the Pollyanna mindset can be a
Oh,
trap as well, because there's the thing about people like, I'm going to be happy the whole time, no matter what. It's like, that's a facade. It's not real. And for me, there's two things I want to speak about particularly is one about allowing authentic expression to come through. So, because I'm talking about emotional mastery in my work and learning that happiness is part of that flow. And the second part is also not to be so dependent upon external input or external stimulus to be happy, because many of us, I mean, I was raised the same way. I was happy based on what happened around me versus being happy internally. And that we want to help people understand the difference, because being externally referenced is the epitome of codependency, which I've talked about many times in my own work.
yes, because I often hear, well, I'll be happier if I'm in a happy relationship. I'll be happier if I have more money. I'll be happier if I live in a different place. And my goal is to always say, well, how could you be happier right now? Let's look at right now in your present circumstances without any of those things better, different than you've asked for them to be. And how could you still be happier?
Oh, yeah,
That's a big part of your work.
absolutely. And on that same point, that thing about, I'll be happy when something happens. Like, why wait till then? Why not be happy now? But the other part is there's an interesting switch, because some of the work I've done in the spiritual work is we have this thing where we externalize when we have this situation, this circumstance, this result, this person, then I'll be happy. Well, what if it's the other way around? What if when you're happy, those things start showing up?
Uh-huh.
Because the thing is, we have this thing a lot of times, you know, when I get this, I'll be happy. It's like, if you're happy now, you're in the state that's going to be attractive to that energy, what you want to bring in. And ladies especially, because I talk about with my female clients about how much it's about being the energy of vibration to attract what you want, because the feminine energy is attractive, whereas the men are more projective. We put things out. So the feminine being attractive, by being in the state that's attracting what she wants, by being in that state of what it's like to have it, makes it more easily available. That's a very short way of saying what I do in my 3-month coaching.
Yeah, I knew that was very condensed.
Yes.
I mean, the men that I talk to in my practice are all very clear that they're attracted to women when they seem confident, that they're like how their life is, that they can talk about the passions they have in their life, that they can talk about the things that are working, that are positive. And it's not that you can't, as a woman, talk about the things that aren't working. It's just, if you have a positive attitude that it's going to get better, that you are working on it. Or even if you ask the guy, well, what do you think? Have you ever experienced this too? Do you have a suggestion? Well, that's just very drawing in of a man.
Right.
So I tell him, watch the women that men notice, especially because of their attitude. Yes, you're noticing their physicality, because that's how things are. You're very visual. And if you're going to keep looking and keep noticing, it has additional to do with their attitude, their confidence when they walk across the room, however they're built, however their body is shaped. If I had this huge conversation about this yesterday, if you like enough, it's better if you like it a lot, but enough, how your body looks. And a man will notice, a man will pay attention, because he can tell that you feel confident and comfortable in your body. And then if you feel like you know enough, that you're lovable enough, that you're caring enough, that however you are, whether you want to improve later, but you're enough today, men notice. It's very attractive to you Y chromosome people, huh?
Indeed it is. That's the way I say it, is like it's being comfortable, or it's like being comfortable in your own skin and owning who you are, because there's a sense of ownership that for me personally, I'm attracted to women who are very much in the ownership of their being. Not like going, look at me. It's more about they trust who they are.
Yeah.
And they own that space, which is so, well, first of all, it's so attractive, because the first thing is they're not needy, they're not pulling energy. Because the other thing I've been very clear about over the years, because I did the pattern, then I see it in other people, because I used to have the pattern, is when they're so needy and wanting and yearning, there's a desperation energy comes through that's very unattractive. So when a woman, and men too, when women own their space and own themselves and are comfortable in their skin, meaning they actually are fulfilled as they are, being whole, 100% complete beings, then they don't need me to be something for them. But they'll certainly love it if I show up that way, and that's the way they are with men. So that understanding for both genders, that we really occupy our own space in a way that is confident, comfortable, and effective. Because it's not necessarily about, again, not ego-driven, like, I'm so confident I can knock down walls. It's like, no. But you know yourself, and you're comfortable in that place, so you become more whole in appearance. You become more complete. So when people see you, they notice you, because you're not looking spiky or dysfunctional or needy or weak or hurt or whatever those things are that people do when they're not in that place.
Or a big wall.
Yes.
Yes.
The protection,
yes.
right.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, to speak as a woman, I notice when a man seems comfortable and confident with who he is, his physicality, his mental ability, his emotional ability, that he doesn't need me to make him feel happy, to feel his best self. Now, what happens when you're together, two people like that, you both get better. You become happier and better people. But I think really is essential is if you can start out as happy as you can get yourself and as confident as you can get yourself, then you're going to attract somebody that's kind of on an equal plane.
In fact, I would say another way of refining that is that when you really are making yourself happy and you fulfill being happy, when your partner makes you happy too, that's like gravy. It's like a bonus. So not saying that you can't receive happiness from other people or be happy because somebody else does something for you, but don't rely upon that as the only thing, because then you become a slave to their wishes. And this is where the whole puppet master thing comes in my codependency talks I've done, is that we think that they must do certain things for us to feel okay. That's an
Yes.
exact epitome of that trap of being out of control, because their actions control your feelings, which is not the way you want to be this way.
No.
You want to be happy because you are happy as you are.
Yes.
And then
then,
they add to that.
sorry,
Sorry
the
to you.
of them withdrawing that, if that's your foundation, that is horrifying, because you'll just tip over.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, codependency for me is one of these things that I've lived through.
Oh, haven't we all?
Exactly. But I've become clearer because more and more about these things. I thought, I have this five-part series to do with a friend of mine on my website called Cracking the Codependency Code, because she said, let's talk about this, because we both have our own issues and our own teachings. And recognizing how codependency is so insidious, because we've been trained by our culture, from everything in entertainment to the way that we're sold products, that, you'll feel better when you have this product. I mean, the marketing that is out there is intentionally focused on a codependent structure, that when you have this car, you'll be okay. When you have this drink, you'll feel better. When you have this makeup, you'll feel good. When you have this medication, all this stuff that is in the marketing is not aiming at saying, you're an amazing person, add this to it.
Yeah.
That would be ideal marketing.
Yes. An addition to,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about some of the techniques that we teach that help people get happier with themselves, to look at what's holding them back, look at what's making them feel stuck, making them feel unhappy.
Mhm.
What can people do, men and women, to help themselves instead of keep looking outside?
Well, one of the the simplest terms to say is, don't be a worrywart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because many of us, and I've done it myself. I mean, these things are not speaking from a theory. I've been through this. Have sometimes circled the drain of a thing that doesn't work, and we haven't chosen to walk away from it. So it's like, when you focus on what's negative, you tend to be negative.
Uh-huh.
So the idea about focusing positive is how you focus on positive. So that simple switch can change everything. And one of the things I teach is really start looking at what happened as simply an experience, not a mark against you on your score chart, just an experience. So if you had a divorce, or if you had if you were drinking, you fell off the wagon, or if you basically you crashed your car or something like that. I've been through that a few times. You don't judge yourself as being wrong because of that. You don't judge yourself as bad because of that. It's like, that's just part of the experience. And when you start learning how to navigate through life, recognizing that what happens in life are experiences, and yes, there's things to learn from them, but they don't have to impact your emotional state as badly as people do. That's one big lesson I teach people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so essential to say, it's not happening to me. It certainly isn't happening to me because I'm a bad person.
Right.
Because often where we'll go, what did I do wrong? Why is this happening to me? Am I a bad person? I mean, I hear that a lot, and I've done that in the past. And that's so unproductive. We think it's going to be helpful because we're going to be better because we looked at it, and that's not looking at it. That's just beating yourself up about it. And it
Right.
makes you feel even worse. I mean, that's not going to help you be a better person. So to look at, okay, why did it happen? Gosh, maybe I didn't have enough sleep and I wasn't paying attention to that other car in the car crash. Or, wow, I didn't know that before. And now that's my biggest lesson. What did I learn from this? How could I do this differently next time? Because
Absolutely.
I had to do that before. Because then I feel so much more proactive about my life, and like, wow, look what I learned. That does make me a better person. That does make me happier. It helps create a sense of well-being where the other part makes me feel off kilter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I would say is that it's like shifting from being reactive to being responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I have quite a few people around me who, when something happens, they're almost on like a hair trigger. Their reactivity to something is almost like, were you looking for something to be upset about? Are you that thin, shaky, uncertain that would knock your center? It's like, this is the thing. We learn in life generally how to do things better the second time around. Usually we make, as a quote, a meme I remember seeing years ago about how having failure, having mistakes is great because you learn from those. If you have everything right all the time, you tend to not know what to happen if you do make a mistake. So the more mistakes you make, it's almost like, I'm going to make so many mistakes because I'm going to be a genius. That idea. Because
Yeah.
then you're taking on the mistakes as teaching moments, and then it's already, again, it's a positive attitude. You're going, it's the idea about, like, going into the two rooms full of crap. Is there a pony in there or not? Sort of that mindset about what can you get out of this? What can you learn from this? What can you gain from this experience so you can be better off next time? And that mindset is a game changer for some people.
It is. And most people that I talk to have not looked at it that way before. And
Right.
if they'll just try it. You don't even have to believe it's going to work. Just try it. It is amazing the next time we talk when they're like, wow, it did make a difference in my attitude and the way I felt about it. Because, if you're starting here and then you make yourself feel worse, then you have to do extra work to just get back to here.
Right.
Where you're here and you go, yeah, that was crappy. And that was kind of crummy that happened. And okay, let's look at why it happened. What was my part? What was maybe another person's part? That doesn't lower you at all.
Right.
What did I learn? So I'm not going to do that again. Whoop. And then your vibration, your happiness, your sense of well-being, your sense of, I think I'm kind of smart. How about that? Wow. I figured that out. I mean, even little tiny pieces of that I find help in the self-confidence and the self-awareness and that foundation that's so important to keep us, for my little buoy to stay upright.
Right. In fact, there was something that a couple of visuals to help people understand this thing. Is that basically sometimes we notice we have the same thing happen more than once. Like we say like, oh, this again. I've been here before. I had that in a relationship a few times. So my clients do too. You go to the same patterns again and again. But the thing is, what you recognize if you really look at it clearly is that it's not so much a circle as a spiral. So what's happening is you actually maybe go back in through the same situation again, but you're smarter now. How you handle that situation is so different from the last time, and then each time again. So when it feels familiar, don't go, oh no, not again, I'm back to the same place. It's go, what's different this time? How have I elevated? Because guaranteed, if it's happened again, you're not the same person you were last time, so you've changed in that period of time, so things can be shifting. The other one, the other analogy is, and I remember this is the thing about when you go through the deep healing work, is that what you start realizing is you get more and more whole and more emotionally mature or emotional mastery, is that basically what happens is your mountaintops in your last life now become the valleys of your new experience, meaning that where you were so bad before, now the peak experiences in the past become your basic experiences now, which is amazing. So recognizing that you still have ups and downs, they'll just be higher up.
I love that. I've never looked at it that way before. It's really great. Yeah, I always tell people we're so busy looking at where we're not, which is okay, to balance it with, where have you come from? Where did you journey from? And what trials did you go through to get here and survived? That's another way to help build up your confidence in, I maybe do know a thing or two what I'm doing,
Yeah, and it is almost a badge of honor in a weird sort of way. It is that thing about having the sense like, I got through it last time. I did okay. Having car accidents where, and I use that as a reference because I've had a few of those, as much as relationship accidents. But when I had car crashes, I felt like I walk away from every single one of them. There's a great sense of relief, but also a sense of, okay, I've been through that experience. It didn't kill me, literally didn't kill me.
Yes.
And I learned from it. I learned better driving skills, so I didn't do that again.
Yes.
It's that sort of understanding in relationships, in business, in other ways, where when you make a mistake, do you take it as a teaching moment or as a whip you want to beat yourself up with?
It's always a choice. It's
Yes.
always a choice. And it's going to come close to a break time. And I think one of the really cool things to talk about, as well as other things on our next segment, is, where did we learn this and how do we unlearn it?
Yes.
Because it is an automatic response for most of us. And until we go, oh, wow, that is what I've learned. And I do that a lot. And then once you recognize it, then you're like, oh crap, what do I do? So then we can talk about what to do about it.
Certainly.
Yeah. So we're going to go on a break for a short commercial, and Barry and I'll be back with more fun subjects. how fun was that? It was like a dance.
That was great.
Lucky us to be part of such a fun radio station, huh? Oh, this is fun.
I'm liking
It's
it.
right.
It's fun.
It's who we are, though, Barry, isn't it? We are like cool cats.
Yes, I'll go with that.
So let's talk about dating with Barry Selby and Christine Baumgartner. And we're talking about how it's your responsibility. It's your job to make you happy in whatever part it is that you're in your life, and that it's not a relationship's job. It's not a car's job. It's not a house. It's not money. Those are really nice bonuses, as you had mentioned earlier in our conversation. And it cannot be the foundation, because it's like building your wonderful, beautiful house on sand.
Yes. Oh, great analogy.
Thanks.
And you said before the break about how we would talk about where we get it from. And when you said that, what immediately flashed into my mind is, and I've said this on other talks we've had, that coming from England, raised in a stoic, white, Jewish, English family, smiling we smiled a lot, but we weren't really joyful. You know, it wasn't a bad family. It wasn't dysfunction or abuse or anything like that in the family. But it was just very emotionally suppressed, to be blunt. And so I didn't really discover my joy till I'd already left home when I was at college, and then when I went to do other jobs. I went to some other countries because I lived in Europe for a while. Was I discovered my own joy coming from just being myself. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't until I did the inner work, which happened when I came to America, because another story for a long time back, Spirit led me through a different path, is I started discovering how I had management over my own well-being, my own self-esteem, my own self-support, and my own happiness. So it's always been underlying everything I do in my life, and also I do with my clients. And the recognition is that what happened then doesn't make you who you are. It can inform who you are, and it can create the platform of who you are, but you have free choice every moment forward from that point to change how you feel.
Yep. And if we don't consciously know that, we're unconsciously not doing it.
Right.
Most of the time. I mean, I think that's what we all find.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And it's this thing about not even being aware of the fact that you're it's like one of the things I recommend highly for people who are starting on this journey is make sure you look in the mirror more than once a day. Because oftentimes you may look in the mirror and go, have I been scowling the whole day? Mm-hmm. So even using the mirror as a feedback system, not to preen or to make yourself perfect, but just look in the mirror and just notice how you're looking at yourself, how you're looking in the world, how you're being presented to the world. Yes, when you're on Zoom and other things like this, you can see how you look on the camera, so you know automatically. But for most people, they might not be looking at any reflection in any device to see how they actually are appearing. So first of all, just check in with yourself. How are you feeling about how you look? How are you feeling about how you're expressing, and how you're looking to the world? Mm-hmm. So that simple switch can make you more aware.
Yes. And once you're aware, it's very, I found, difficult to not think about doing something about it. When it's way back here, you're like, I can keep ignoring it. And yeah, it comes up now and it goes back. But if it's right here, like I call it putting it at the front of your brain, you can't ignore it anymore. Now you're like, well, I think that makes me uncomfortable. Well, I don't like being uncomfortable. Maybe I need to do something different so that I'm not so uncomfortable.
Right.
I have a mirror exercise that I give my clients, and I tell them to pick something about themselves. For women, I give a lot of physical stuff. Pick a thing physically that you really like about yourself, that you get complimented all the time, that you wouldn't change even if somebody handed you $1 million. So eyes, teeth, your little toe, your elbow, I don't care what it is. And I've had a variety of things that women have said. And then 2 times a day, generally people brush their teeth. I happen to do 3 since I work out of my house. And when you're putting the toothpaste on, you stare at yourself in the mirror and you go on and on and on about that part. So you have the most beautiful smile, and wow, people just light up when they see you. And it's so fun when you smile, and yeah, everybody really smiles back. And look at how cool you look when you smile. And wow, it just goes right up to your eyes. And so whatever it is, you need to spend 30 seconds saying that. And the part that relieves people is I said, you don't even have to like it. You don't have to believe it. You don't even have to say it nicely. You can go, my smile, and it's okay. And people do say they like it, because the thing about it is that part of your brain that's got the hamster wheel telling you all these bad things is listening. Yeah. It doesn't care about your tone of voice. It doesn't even care if you don't believe it. because it's believing all these bad things about you that aren't really the truth either. So you plant this little seed, because what it'll do is it's going to do this balance where you're going to go, wow, I'm paying more attention to that uncomfortable part because I'm starting to feel a little bit of comfortable about me. I'm starting to appreciate this positive thing about me. And then once you've done that for a little while, the funnest part is after a couple of weeks, my clients will tell me, everybody at work wants to know if I've changed my hair or lost weight. And all they've done is this positive self-talk twice a day.
This is the secret trip to, instead of going to the spa or going for a full makeover, just a little practice like this in the mirror can transform your appearance because you're inside out, doing the work inside out. I do a guided self-love mirror meditation with my clients. It's a process on my website too. And it's amazing the power of that simple thing, a piece of glass with a reflector in it that we can use to change our lives. And so recognizing our happiness quotient, our appearance and beauty, or our love for ourselves through working with the mirror without working with anybody else. And yet we don't have mirrors in houses. So why are we not doing that every day? It seems like it's such a simple task we could do that. So I love that what you're doing with clients. And it is a thing we can do to recognize that we don't need a lot. It's like we're not to be all perfect because none of us are, except that we're all perfectly ourselves. So our comparison on the people never works. Again, back to the codependency thing. This desire to be compared to other people, comparing our car, comparing our clothes, comparing our height, comparing our weight, comparing our appearance, comparing our income, comparing all these different things with somebody else, can either work for you or against you, but it's not guaranteed. It can be funny for you if you want to be one up from somebody else, but that's all ego. That's not truth. Or you can be beating yourself up because you're not as good as so-and-so, the Joneses, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that becomes a trap because we're using other people's experience to justify our lack of success. Now, if it motivates you, which some people do in business, they go, well, that person do better than I do. I need to do better. Well, that works. But again, it's all ego-driven. It's not heart-driven. And for you to know me, I'm all about the heart. So I'm much more about you owning your space and agreeing that you are deserving and worthy, independent of circumstance. Because from my philosophy, coming from a spiritual background, we are worthy because we are spirit. So whatever happens in your life, whatever you're doing in your life, that doesn't go away. So if you remember your worthiness, because it's already there's nothing to remember really, it's already in you, then your life can shift very easily because there's no longer need to go grab, chase, fight for, compare and all these other things we do to ourselves. We really do have a bad habit of shooting ourselves in the foot about life.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good point. And the reminder part is so important because I have not had to ever teach, in the hundreds of people I've talked to, I've not had to teach them to give themselves a hard time. We're all really good at that. We could have gold medals.
Yeah.
How do you get a habit of saying something nice, of something positive, of something that acknowledges about you? It's not false. I'm not telling you to lie ever. I want you to really look at something that you like about you that's working for you. And then the more you acknowledge it, it's like a plant, it's like getting sunshine and water and fertilizer. It's going to keep growing and blooming, and it will help offset the other things that we don't like. Because when you say, well, I don't like this about me, that's okay, because you had a motivation to do something about it. But the problem when we do that is we go, well, that makes me a bad person. And then there's nothing social redeeming about me. Well, then you're not doing the balance thing. So if you go, wow, I really would like to learn how to play bridge. And wow, I'm not really good at counting cards or math, but I'm this really friendly person. And I think the people at the bridge thing will be really happy that I'm there and they'll be happy to teach me. And it's okay that I don't know how, because they'll be excited to teach me. And there's the balance. Where if we do it the other way, we just go in going, oh, nobody's going to like me and they're going to make fun of me and it won't be fun.
Yeah, I would say basically I'll call that bad math.
It's very bad math. That's the new bad math.
Well, because it's like you're saying, well, this and this plus this equals that. It's like, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't at all. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5. No, but that's what we do to ourselves. That's
exactly.
Really
yeah.
So let's talk about where it comes from, because it's insidious. I mean, I'm sure there's some part of the population that doesn't have this as a challenge, but I've not met them, and it certainly wasn't me.
I would say basically, I mean, I reference Bruce Lipton in his book, The Biology of Belief. He talks about the first 5 years or so. I think it's actually, I personally think 7, but he's actually got a PhD. I don't. This is about the first 5 years of life. We are basically like a clean slate, a tabula rasa. We are an open sponge taking the world around us. So we learn how life works based upon the adults who are the gods around us imprinting us. So when we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in between those, of course, we're watching the way our parents express love, emotions, house management, any different things, and it goes into the sponge without any filter. The way that he describes it is that we basically have a conscious mind is like a gatekeeper, and that doesn't come online to around 6 or 7 years old when we start having real volition and ownership of our space and self-identity. Up to that point, we're not really in that space. So up to that point, it's kind of like having the gates are wide open and everything just pours in. And then at some point, 6, 7 years old, we have a gatekeeper and close the gates. Great, now I'm in charge. Unfortunately, that behind the gates is everything we're taking in without any understanding. There's no control. So what happens is that becomes it fills our subconscious. And so whatever patterns we learn from our parents, not things we go, I will learn this from my parents, is what you just took in. And a lot of times it isn't about what they did to us, it's what they did to each other, or what they didn't do to each other, or for each other, with each other. As an adult, we will start repeating those same patterns because we're not aware of them as automatic pilots. So our dating life will tend to, and that's why they say about how women tend to date and marry their father, men tend to date and marry their mother, and sometimes the other way around because it's the strongest parent that they take a model from. So what we're doing is we're modeling what we learned without realizing we learned it before we were aware that we'd learned it, simply put.
Yes.
And so when it comes to happiness or love or any other patterns, it's our parental environment. It was the classroom we studied in without realizing we were studying. It's like learning when you're asleep. You're not even aware you're doing it.
Yes.
And so as an adult, what I work with my clients is to go back and really to reprogram ourselves from when we were younger and to disassociate, but to separate and to disconnect our childhood experiences from adult choices.
Yes. And make really conscious decisions now. Now that we have that opportunity, I tell people it's for me, because I like visuals, that you're going to clean out your closet and you're going to try on everything and you're going to say, well, this still fits me. I see this, the values I got or some of the fun traditions I got. I like those. I'm going to keep them. And then there's things you're like, I like this part of it, but I don't like this part. So I'm going to alter it.
Right.
And it fits my personality and my body and my emotions and my mental state now. And then there's stuff they're like, it's going to the Goodwill.
It's like, what was I thinking?
In the trash, pardon me?
It's like, what was I thinking?
Really? Well, and I wasn't thinking. That's the problem when you talk about us as children.
Exactly.
And if you can do it in kind of an unemotional way where you aren't giving yourself a hard time, because as you explained, we didn't know.
Right.
We didn't know what was coming in. We didn't know how to filter it. We didn't know there was no comparison. We couldn't say, I like this and I like hamburger instead of filet mignon. I mean, there was no choices as a kid. It just came in. And as you said, the gods who were in charge of the roof over our head and the clothes on our back and our food and affection, we don't want to piss them off. I mean, we really don't, because we don't want them to withdraw the things we need for our life. So it was vital that we just absorb it all. Yeah. And now we'll have a much better life if we look and say, I can see why they did it. I can see why it worked for them, and it doesn't work for me now. And I am really clear that when I married the first time at 18, when I thought I knew everything, because you do think you know everything at 18, I married the hardest parts of both of my parents. Didn't even really marry much of because they had some good parts. I just said, oh, no, I'm going to pick these really things that are really hard on me, and I'm going to put it all in a husband. It was really wild. And when I got more emotionally healthy and went to therapy and did this part where I brought it up to the front and went, this does not fit me anymore. Oh my gosh, this is just too difficult. It helped me see him as much more, it was him as a person that wasn't good for me. He wasn't a bad person. That was so rewarding. And because I thought, God, did I marry a bad person? Because I really didn't marry a bad person. I just a person that we were bad for each other. We so did not fit. There was not hardly any of this. There was lots of misfitting.
Well, actually, I would say it does have a lot of that, because the way I took it from what I've learned from my own background and my psychology background is that we tend to attract these dovetailing patterns that fit together. Yeah. So if we were in a family, for example, growing up where there was always yelling in the family because the parents always yelled at each other. Maybe it was all good because maybe it was an Italian family and they're all very gesticulating, yelling, and it's all fine. If you're in a relationship where there's no yelling, you don't feel you're being loved.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find somebody's going to be yelling, but you might find somebody who's yelling negatively at you. So it's for like, basically, you need to be receptive to somebody who yells if it's together.
Yes.
So there is a certain sense of compatibility based upon the programming. But if that's not your programming you want to have, you got to change what that is so you actually attract something that fits in a much better way.
Yes, in a really growing, healthy way.
Absolutely.
Yes, he fit all the criteria of all the things I was very used to and accustomed to and knew how to be in a family like that. And then as I figured out, I don't think that's the kind of family I want anymore, I said, oh, I guess we're not a match anymore. And what was so fascinating was when people came around, like the realtor and our accounting person, and they'd like come to the door because we told them we were getting divorced, and they'd like, is it safe to come in? Because I think they thought pots and pans would be flying around. And we've gone back to being so friendly with each other. We've gotten back to being friends because we stopped trying to make this marriage work with somebody who was so wrong for us.
There you go.
One of the biggest lessons I learned at 31, when I figured out I hardly knew anything.
Amazing how that works.
I was like, I thought I was so darn smart at 18. And then I figured out I know hardly anything at 31, but look at all the stuff I get to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I think for me, and it is a sign of maturity, I think, is the more we start recognizing that, one, we don't know everything.
No.
Two, it's okay to be happy even when it's not perfect.
Yeah.
There's a book by Rachel Naomi Remen called Kitchen Table Wisdom. And I remember studying this when I was in my master's program. And she had these stories with different people, but the one thing she kept coming back to was a lot of times what is like using kintsukuroi, which is the Japanese art of putting gold inlay in broken pottery.
Yeah.
Is that we're stronger at the broken places. So understanding that when we have challenges and we have upsets and we have wounding, when you start loving yourself because of that, not independent of that, but because of that, it makes you stronger as a complete being. So there's no thing to go, when I get to a perfect being, I do everything perfectly. No. It's recognizing that what you're doing now with all your kinks and challenges and options and frustrations is, can you still be happy in the moment? Because ultimately, it's how you navigate through life with all those challenges that gives you freedom.
Yes.
And that, I think, is ultimately in this message, is about happiness is an inside job, and happiness is the key to freedom in every part of your life.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. And then what I find for me and my clients is that when you have found this place where generally most of the time you're happy, really most of the time content, then the people that will come into your life are the people that are there or working on the same thing. Because I find that people that are unhappy don't really like spending a lot of time with me because I'm playing that game with them.
Yeah.
You know, I can't get into the poor me and life is so horrible. I mean, I'm certainly, as you do, we listen to, oh, it's so hard right now. Yeah, I get that. And I have, oh, it's so hard right now. I have my people I whine to. And I know basically inside of me, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I can handle this. I have the tools inside of me to get myself back upright, to not let most things knock me over. That they're a little, that's why I have a buoy, because it's the kind, that like, they don't get fallen over or submerged very easily. So that, and I think that's also really important too, because you cannot be rigid. Well, this is the only way I can be happy. It has to only be this way. It has to be my way or the highway. Well, that's not going to work in the world that we live in ever.
No. But being fragile, being rigid is being fragile. And it's that flexibility about being able to go with the flow, which is one of the biggest lessons I've had in life myself. So definitely the idea of a buoy is it's a better analogy, because it is about learning how to go with the flow, but staying centered at the same time. And these are powerful keys to live life in a much healthier, happier, and more fulfilling way, because life is easier when you're not fighting against it.
Yes. Yes. Going with the flow. And that you keep charting your own course. If you're not happy with the island you keep ending up on, then take your buoy or your sailboat or your motorboat and let's change course. You can't change course without a map. You can't, in the ocean, oh my gosh. You can't just go willy-nilly off. You're going to get lost. And then what are you going to do? Right. You're going to use the stars, or I don't know what else you use. Probably nothing else.
Probably GPS compass, something like that.
There you go. because I bet you can do that with phones now when you're sailing, that you have a plan, that first, well, this is where I want to go, because this is how it's going to be good if I'm there for me. Then, oh, how do I even get there? And first you have to believe there's really a there.
Right.
Yes. And then how do I get there? What do I need to learn? What do I need to unlearn? What do I need to relearn? What tools do I need? And that's when I have learned in my life that having somebody who's done the journey, somebody who knows more than me, that gives me hope. Oh, I see that they've gone through the same trial and they're on the other side, and they can talk about, yeah, this is the challenging part and this is what I learned. And this is why I'm really grateful and happy that I've gotten here, because now this is what I've gained as part of my foundation of making my life a happier place. And it wasn't a person or a thing. It was me. Because then how cool is that? I get to take credit. Look what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is to say about that idea about having a goal where you want to get to, the recognition is also is that where you want to get from where you want to go is very rarely a straight line.
No. Yeah.
So, and like using the water analogy, and I'm no sailor, so I'm just going to play this out. But understanding that when you're going to go from one island to another island, you can't just sail straight to that point, because the reality is the currents in the water, the wind currents, everything else is going to change and move you around, and learning how to navigate through that, so you're still coming back to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Especially when you got somebody who knows how to do that, is one of the best things in life. Is like life is a pathway that is very it's a curvy road.
Yes.
But it's
and you're
also
always
recognized. Sorry,
generally going in the same direction.
yes.
Oh, that's the point. Because I think often when people do it on their own, they feel like they keep taking one step forward and 3 steps back.
Right.
And they go, oh, I learned it, but oh, it was so hard. And the cost of getting your heart broken, because we talk about relationships here.
Yeah.
Too great. It's too great. And it's unnecessary. That's my big soapbox. It is unnecessary to have it happen over and over and over and over. Our heart is not built for that, to get broken over and over and over.
No.
It's built that we need to feel like we have successes and we feel like we're learning better. Oh, I'm learning how to do that better. Not crap. I just had the same horrible, awful thing happen to me again. Oh, that just breaks my heart.
And that doesn't make you happy.
Getting that because we've certainly done that, and now we don't want other people to have to do it.
No, my heart's fulfillment is helping other people have joy in their own hearts, to be open, to be loving. So it's not about having a strong, tough, closed heart, like I mentioned, about being fragile that way. It's about being open in the flow of that and allowing your heart to really express itself.
Yeah.
And stuff will happen, but again, how do you manage that is the lesson.
Yes. How do you not get swamped
right.
in the meantime? And if you go back to the sailboat, very seldom are there people sailing a sailboat by themselves, because you need somebody to look for the directions, and you need somebody for the sails, and you need somebody for the rudder. And so having a team of people with you, some sort of a coach or a mentor, and then like a really good best friend that has your, best interest at heart, and then being also on your own team. Because I think often, if you've had things that you feel like are failures and that you've done badly, you're not even on your own team anymore. And I think you and I take it very seriously to get people on their own team.
Oh, yeah, I think that's one of the things we miss, and it's true, very true about that. We are our best teammate when we choose to step into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we know ourselves best. And as the examples of how quickly our mindset can get turned around, just talking in the mirror twice a day, every day for a week or two, that outside people notice. I mean, to acknowledge the power we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So switching.
Little simple thing,
Right. Well, say the thing about there's an old quote about, if we talk to our friends like we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any.
Yes.
And so recognizing that if we talk to ourselves the way we want to be talked to our friends, we can shift everything as well.
Oh.
So it's really coming home to ourselves and really becoming a best teammate by being a best cheerleader. Like, what if you were your own best cheerleader, to make yourself happy, to make yourself joyful, to give yourself a little pep talk to lift yourself up? Yeah, that could change your life right there.
Huge. And people are often, as human beings, we think, and we often learned, but the way that you get better is to criticize. The way that you get better is to keep pointing out what's not right. And I don't think that that works in the long run for most people. It just doesn't. That you say, this is what I'm doing great. This is what I'm doing great over here.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing, I'm doing okay. I'd like to do this better, or I'm really doing this badly and I want to do it better. You still have to have this is what I'm doing good. And if you haven't had an example of that when you were growing up, because parents think that the best way to raise a child is to just keep pushing and correcting, doing the course correcting, but not saying,
Right.
you're really going, you're really in the wind and your sails are trimmed and your rudder's going just in the perfect, and we need to do this to adjust, to get going in the right direction. Oh, and here's the wind, and you didn't know this, that when the wind comes this way, we have to do the sail this way. And to keep doing the positive, encouraging part. And so we didn't learn how to do that. We only learned how to pick on ourselves.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
There was something came through as you were saying that. Is really learning that it's okay to have problems. But the thing is, like in business, they talk about how, if you see something wrong in the way a company's being run or an organization, you can discuss the problem, but have 3 solutions. So recognize that if you're going to be able to face the challenge of what's not working, what can you do differently that's better than that? What can you bring that is a solution that will change things in a different direction? Because in reality, we have, again, dominion over our own place and our own space. And knowing that what is not working is not the only answer.
No.
And that's what you and I are both here for, to help our clients see 3 more choices for everything they're having challenges with, so they can be more whole, more fulfilled, and have the love they really want.
And it's funny how seldom everything's wrong. Even if it's just this one subject, everything is not usually wrong.
No.
There is some, it's okay, or even right. And then there's still adjustments.
Yeah.
But it's that whole adage of, you throw the baby out with the bathwater because, there's one thing wrong, so it all is. No, if the spoiled spot on the apple is, you cut that part off and the rest of the apple might be just fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's the thing, we look at that one little flaw in the perfect diamond, and we focus on that flaw. It's like, do you realize how much of the diamond is amazing?
Yeah, the missing tile syndrome. Yes.
You're right. Yeah.
You just notice, and forget to look at it. Well, there's 900 tiles in here and they all look perfectly fine. And yeah, there's one missing. It doesn't make all of it wrong or bad or terrible. What are we going to do about this missing one? And it is very difficult. It's difficult for most human beings to move past that.
That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm. That's what our job is. And we take it really seriously.
With joy and happiness.
Yes. We're happy people generally. And then this makes us happy. This is additional to our happiness. It makes us even more happy to help people on this journey of growing into their best selves and learning what was already there. I mean, that's the part that's the most joyful for me, is like, you aren't broken. There's just stuff you don't know and you need some adjustments, like having your car tuned up. Your car's perfectly fine. Your engine just needed a little tuning, or your tire needed a little more air so it runs better. And so having someone who's on your side that is going to tell you the things that you need to look at, as well as all the things that are just glorious about you, I think is a really good way for people to learn how to be happier and be their best selves.
Absolutely. That's my passion, and yours too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like this is the gift I was given, and that I continue to learn when hard things happen to me, of how do I get back upright? How do I get back to feeling happy again? What tools am I going to keep figuring out? For me, I did it totally selfishly for me. And wow, now I have all this great knowledge and tools to share with other people.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I know, you too.
So I think it's time to wrap.
I think so. Oh, she's always trying to cut us off because talking because it's so much fun. Well, so fabulous. Oh my gosh. I think all of our subjects are so important, and this one's really important. And with all the extra things pushing against us right now with the virus and the voting, and there's so many harder things in our world, that learning how to keep yourself as happy as possible, it's essential.
Yeah.
I think we're essential workers in that way. What do you think?
I like that title. I don't want to claim. I don't want to denigrate anybody else's. You know, there are many essential workers who are far more important than I am. But in this sense, we bring an essential service to the world. Absolutely.
I do. I think that too. So if you've enjoyed our conversation and you would like to talk to us individually about challenges that you're having in being happy in your life, or feeling kind of dependent on outside things in your life to make you happy, the way that you can get a hold of me is my website is www.theperfectcatch.com. And at the top of my website is What's Holding You Back from Love. If you click on that, we can have a intimate, personal, grounding, informative conversation together. And you can reach me also as a personal email at Christine, Chrisistine, at theperfectcatch.com. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and all that lovely social media stuff. And you can find videos that I've done and worksheets that I've done. And I think that it would be great to talk to you. And Barry, please tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Certainly. So my website is my name, which is barryselby.com. Easy to find me. And on my website, it's two things I want to point out. Right at the top on the navigation, the left-hand end says Let's Chat. That's the place where you can fill out a form and apply for a complimentary conversation with me, so we can really get down to what's really working for you, what's not working for you, how I can help you course correct and help you get where you want to go, particularly in the area of love and relationships. Also, as I mentioned earlier about this series I talked about, the Cracking the Codependency Code, in the navigation bar, somewhere in the middle, I think I can't remember exactly where, it says Cracking the Codependency Code. Click on that. There's 5 videos on the page. You can just watch them in series. They're embedded in my site, easy to find, that explain what I do and how I work, and stuff we've gone through about codependency with my friend Janie, who I talked to. Personal email is barry@barryselby.com. And on social media, my YouTube channel, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest is all Barry Selby. On Facebook, you find me at barryselby.author, and on Instagram, it's the real Barry Selby.
Yes.
And my YouTube channel is over 1,000 videos now of my talks and discussions, so lots of resources for you there too.
Yes, I know you're so good at all that, and I love all your posts, and I love copying them and spreading the word.
Which I welcome to.
So I'll look forward to talking to you next Thursday at 1 o'clock
Pacific.
4 o'clock Eastern. Until then, bye for now.
See you then.
Bye.